What's up, people? This is Lucky, and I just got through seeing Man of Steel, and man, it was quite powerful, and I'm really still kind of somewhat blown away by it. This is a completely spoiler-free review. It will contain information that's in the trailers, so if you haven't seen any of the trailers, I will cover some of just the base information that's already out there and in the trailers. But I will not go deep into spoilers because I don't want to ruin this movie. And let me just say up front, well, there's a lot of reviews out there, and I myself honestly went in with very, very low expectations for this movie. I was not a big fan of Man of Steel. I'm not a big fan of Zack Snyder. But I gotta say, this is by far his best work ever. I mean, I personally think Watchmen is good, but it's somewhat overrated and gets a little bit convoluted. And 300 is good and entertaining for what it is, but it's kind of like popcorn entertainment, you know. I can't say that it really moved me per se. And most of his movies, I just kind of feel like, you know, that's kind of fun and entertaining for a few hours. They don't really strike me as like really good or great films, even though occasionally he does some really interesting things visually in them. There's like nuggets in there. And with Man of Steel particularly, there was like nuggets of greatness and there was nuggets of goodness, and there was there were several like what the fuck moments in Man of Steel. So I really expected more of the same. And I really had low expectations, and then the reviews hit, and it's just getting slammed on the tomato meter. And I read several of the spoiler-free reviews, and I gotta say, I had really low expectations going into this film. That being said, man, this film far surpassed those expectations, and it's his best film yet. And honestly, when I first walked out of the theater, I really didn't know quite what to expect. And the audience didn't have like a huge reaction. I mean, there's a few parts that they chuckled at and didn't get like a standing ovation like necessarily a lot of movies. And I think that speaks to like how powerful it kind of is. Because as I walked out, I was like, man, that was surprisingly good. You know, I kept waiting for it to suck, and it never really sucked. There are some problems with it, and I'll speak about that, but they're not huge. They're not like these massive, like, holy crap, what the fuck moments. Perhaps fanboys and comic book fans, because they took a number of very important stories and, like, merged them together, will have hissy fits over some of it. But honestly, as the story itself, it actually worked. And a lot of critics had said the plot was very convoluted and there's threads that don't go anywhere, and that's just not true. It's like all the pieces fit and they tied very well back into Man of Steel, and they tied into, you can see kind of where the future's going, and I really feel like all the little pieces fit, with like one little exception. So I really think these reviews about the story being convoluted and lots of threads not being followed and it being a mismatch, I just think it's wrong. And in general, I think the reviews are wrong. And like I said, I walked out thinking it was pretty amazing. And I drove home. And the more I drove, the more I thought about it. I've got like a 20-25 minute drive between here to my house, and by the time I got home, I was like, it was deeply, like, I can't wait to go see it again. I actually feel it was somewhat very powerful film. Let's speak in general about the good and the bad. Ben Affleck, everybody, including me, thought he was gonna suck as Batman, and I don't like Affleck, but god damn, he was a good fucking Batman. He was really, really fucking good. Batman has a really nice, I feel like he has a good arc in the story. This is almost a Batman film. It's almost more a Batman film than it is a Superman film. But he's got an excellent arc. Henry Cavill as Superman, and the arc of Superman here. Actually, you know, a lot of the critics kind of say he's wooden and he doesn't emote, but you know, he plays a very, very calm and confident Superman. Like, he's just always just very calm and chill and at peace with his strength, you know. He doesn't really lose it that much, except occasionally. But there's like one moment, and it's like at a key moment of the film where, you know, he kind of struggles with his identity a little bit still. He's still struggling with this Superman identity. And I think there's a moment where he kind of comes to grips with who he wants to be. And Henry Cavill, I feel like he really fucking nailed it. I felt like Amy Adams was solid all the way through. I felt like Alfred and Lawrence Fishburne, who plays the editor of the Daily Planet, man, they like stole the show. They had funny little quips here and there, and they were always a pleasure when they were on screen. Now Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, man, this girl, she fucking nails her fucking part too. I mean, any criticisms against her, I feel like, is unfair. In every single scene, she is very, very confident and calm, and there's not the slightest hint of insecurity in her, which is what you would expect from Diana Prince. But she has an arc too. I mean, somehow they fit this into the movie, and she kind of goes from an observer, and she gets involved, and it makes sense. It like really makes sense, and she gets involved. And when she shows her stuff, she shows a side, like there's a part where she's fighting and she cracks a little smile here and there, and you're getting this, just that one little bit tells you so much about her character. And like, I mean, it was really quite amazing, honestly. I really didn't expect that much from her, but with as little screen time as she had, they did so much with it. And that kind of leads me to like one of my major points about this film is they did a lot with very little screen time. Like, Snyder is notorious for like ham-fisting his points across, you know, and repeating and just hammering a point to death. You know, I just feel like sometimes, and in this film, I think they only did it with one particular thing. I think there's a dream sequence in it there that is primarily there to serve the purpose to drive, to reinforce Batman's motivation. But I honestly feel like the motivation's already there, and they kind of already set that up, and I just don't know that it was necessary, and it's a little bit out of place, and it's somewhat disjointed from the rest of the film, and you could take it out, and I think in general the thing would just be paced a lot better. I don't feel like it really serves. I feel like it distracts more than it helps, and it's also the one moment where I felt like he's being ham-fisted. But a lot of this stuff they just cover very briefly and with shots and very subtly and just little quotes and stuff, and they just kind of they hint at it, you know. They hint at backstories. They do a great job of telling Batman's backstory, and they do a great job of like setting all these different little scenarios up and what is driving these characters and motivating these characters through this thing. And they really do it in a way that's not hammering stuff home. Now, one of the big disappointments is Jesse Eisenberg. And it's not that he's bad, because his crazy is actually really kind of entertaining crazy, psychotic crazy. My problem is that he has no character arc. Like, I feel like all these other characters have, like, they have their character changes throughout the film, and they come to grips with a certain thing, and then they move past that and they evolve. And when they introduce him, He's fucking batshit crazy from the get-go, and I just think it would have worked so much better if he had been cold and calculating and composed early on, and as like events unfolded and things got more tense, he slowly unraveled and you saw like the really dark crazy side. But he's batshit crazy from the get-go, and I actually think that hurts the film, but it doesn't just destroy it. I mean, I can see how some people are not going to like his character at all, you know, and he's the main villain to a degree. But I don't think he wrecked the movie. In fact, he was at a place, I thought he was like really interested, especially towards the end. He was like really super crazy, and I really actually kind of like dug this psychotic Lex character, and I really liked where his character was at the end. I just don't feel like he should have started out that way. I think it should have been more of a surprise. And so let's get into that, since we're speaking of that. What is the main fucking problem with this movie? I think the main problem with this movie is that they showed way too much stuff in the trailers. My God, they showed way too much. There's so much stuff that's really good that I feel like they didn't need to show in the trailers. They should have kept that under their closet, and they did. They kept a lot of stuff under wraps. There's stuff you haven't seen that you're going to be surprised about, and how it all fits together. It's going to work, and you're still going to be surprised. But I still feel like they let way too much out of the bag way too early. And I think, if anything, that's the biggest problem with this film. And you know what? That's not that big a deal, but that might affect people's immediate reaction to it. Overall, I think it's a really powerful film, and I'm gonna be, my initial reaction was good, but as I think about it more and more and how it's impacted me, I honestly gotta say this is one of the better superhero films of all time. I don't know, top 5 maybe? At least top 10. At least top 10 superhero movies of all time. Because it's really powerful. Not fun and lighthearted like Avengers was, but it's powerful. And he uses some, I mean, there's some great cinematography in it. There's some great film in it. There's tons of live sets. There's a lot less CGI in this than there is Man of Steel. And yes, there is a couple moments where you can tell there is CGI, and some critics have pointed that out, but it's really not that bad. I mean, for the most part, all the shots work, and most of it is live action, and the movie just feels real and tangible, and it's powerful. I felt like the score was at times just right on point, and at times just a little disjointed, because they had a few different themes going on, and there's a few times they hopped back and forth, and at one time I found myself consciously thinking about it, which shouldn't happen in a score. It's the first time you see a movie. But most of the time I felt like it was really on point. Honestly, I really think it's a great movie. I mean, don't listen to the critics. Go out and see this fucking film. It's a lot better than the Tomato Meter score. It's easily Zack Snyder's best film. All the actors in it did an amazing job. Even Jesse Eisenberg. In general, I think it's a really good superhero film. And I can't wait to go see it again. Anyways, this is Lucky signing out. Peace.